Hey there, Glenn with Modern Explorer with another interview from Phenomecon 2023. This time it's with a gentleman named Daryl Wilson, who had a life-changing experience when he was up with his family in Alaska. He is a resident of Vernal, and since his experience up there has gathered over 800 encounter stories of Bigfoot. That's what makes him a bit of a legend at Phenomecon, because he's always walking around with a recorder. I'm looking forward to interviewing him. I hope you like this. It is a really cool interview because he really gets in depth into his story. And I found it to be incredibly compelling. If you or anybody you know has an encounter story you'd like to share, again, let me know. Encounters@modernexplorer.me. Love to document your story. But be sure, if you like this, to notify, subscribe, notify, and comment below. All that really helps with the algorithm and allows us to get the word out, as well as gather in more stories, building a picture of what's going on around here in the world with Bigfoot, and actually even the UFOs and the whole interesting phenomenon. And heck, this world is so much more interesting than we think. Anyway, let me know what you think about his story. I look forward to talking to you on the other side. Cheers.
20, 30 yards away was this thing peeking over this pine bush.
It was a large, hairy animal, dark brown, black hair.
All of a sudden, this creature let out I want to call it a blood-curdling, growling, howling scream.
That's when I realized it wasn't my friend that had snuck up on me.
Dude, all the branches that are broken off are red.
That's crazy. There's no medulla.
And we're here at Phenomecon 2023.
Incredible Phenomecon.
And I have bumped into, I would say, a bit of a legend around here.
Well, that's what some people say.
Your name is?
I'm Daryl Wilson.
And why are you a bit of a legend here around Phenomecon?
Well, I'd have to share my Bigfoot story with you. I was sent home to die of melanoma cancer, so I went up to Alaska to visit my children, my daughter, my son-in-law, my grandchildren. And while there, we were doing fun things. We went up in his plane, he and I. He had a Naranka Champ airplane. We saw 8 bear one day and countless moose and all of the Alaska animals just about. We flew over an 8-foot, 10-foot brown bear. We flew over a female, excuse me, got to clear my throat a little bit. And it was incredible to see that 10-foot bear stand up on his back legs, growling at us. Get down here, I'll rip your tires off.
How low were you in the plane?
On the second pass, we dropped to about 14 feet off the river, and he would have been maybe 10 to 15 feet beyond the tip of the wing, if my memory serves me correct.
Wow.
And so I know what a 10-foot brown bear looks like. Fast forward a couple of days. Now we're in his boat up the Andreescu River, and we'd been fishing for salmon. They'd gone bad. They call them zombie salmon up there. I wanted to go fishing for steelhead because I'd had one on earlier, and nobody else wanted to go. The kids wanted to go swimming, and it's a quick dip and then it's waiting because the water's cold. Tough kids. Anyway, he and I took a tributary of the Andreescu River. It's a big river. And so we were on a tributary making a big loop. And I'm fishing off the back, he's fishing off the front, and I hear him whisper, "What's that?" And I turned to see where he was looking through the binoculars. And I said, "That's a big old brown bear." He said, "No, what is that? And we're whispering. And I couldn't figure out why he said that, because I was not a believer in Bigfoot prior to that. And then it stood up and took 2 steps forward. In my mind, I'm looking at this. A bear can't walk like that. You know, bears, they
got that waddle.
Yeah, but this was very human-esque, like this. He took 2 or 3 steps, squatted back down like a human, and started eating salmon berries and blueberries. Watched him eating salmon berries and blueberries for at least 10 minutes before he even knew we were there, because his back was towards us, a little bit to the side. And it was a very jaw-dropping experience. I didn't know it was a Bigfoot at that point. I said to him, that's bigger than that 10-foot brown bear that we saw. No, what is that? He's a trooper, and he could not wrap his mind around what he was seeing. I didn't know why. And I'm trying to get the binoculars out of his hands, and I finally get the binoculars, and I'm looking, and then he stands up and takes another 2 steps, squats back down and starts eating. I saw hands with the fingers about this long, with the thumb way back here. Fingers were kind of curled like this. I saw part of the face and his nose, and I knew immediately that there was nothing else on this earth that could be. And I said, that's a Bigfoot. Talk about a change of mind immediately. That's a Bigfoot. Again, he said, no, what is that? I thought, why? That's the 3rd or 4th time that he said that. And so I hand him back the binoculars, and I say, look at the face. Look at the fingers. And he's looking, and after a long look, I hear him go, oh. That's when we both became absolute knowers.
Knowers, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was so tall, so muscular, probably right in this neighborhood as far as shoulder to shoulder. When he finally gave me back the binoculars, I said to him as I looked, that's either Bigfoot or Andre the Giant dressed in a Bigfoot costume. Yeah. It can't be anything else. And I raised my voice. And when I said it can't be anything else, the Bigfoot turned and looked straight at me. He heard me because we had been whispering. And I saw gorilla wrinkles right here. I saw a high brow ridge right here. No eyebrows at all. This particular Bigfoot was bald right here. He had a sloped forehead that went into a sagittal crest, like most Bigfoot of, you know, there's a few that have human-esque head, but this particular one had kind of a gorilla-shaped head, but not the face. The nose was human. The mouth was human. The mouth went clear over to the side of his face. Big, wide, very narrow lipped lips. And what was very unique is the hair came in more to his nose than down here, like my beard.
Okay.
And that was a unique feature. I don't remember the hair on his beard. And I don't know if it's because I didn't look. I just don't remember hair being on the chin. Probably was some short hair there, but I didn't see that. Solid black eyes. Could not see the ears. The hair covered the ears. The hair started right about here and it went all the way to his ankles. And we're just standing there watching him, and my jaw just hit the bottom of the boat almost. It just so incredible. And he looked at us for a little while, and then he turned, took 2 or 3 steps forward, and just fell to his knees, and his hands raised up like this, and he just went just like a tree would fall. And he was on the middle of a tundra hillside like this, and we're on the river looking at an angle. And why we couldn't see him, he was so big, so muscular. I mean, arms, legs, incredible, tall.
Holy cow.
I could tell he was taller than that 10-foot brown bear, just from where we were. And we were looking, at first he was probably 300 yards away, and we're floating towards him. At some point he threw the anchor out so that we wouldn't go behind the trees and miss him. I cannot tell you what that did to me. I'm in Alaska with a death sentence, dying of cancer, thinking I'm going to see my grandkids and daughter for the last time. And to have that experience, I'm going to bring in a little bit of spiritual. All right, I'll just finish the story.
No, do whatever you want. I mean, this is your time. I don't want to steal it at all.
Seeing him, I'm thanking God for getting to see the most incredible thing at this end point of my life. And so I am actually thanking God for having the opportunity to see him. And I'll finish the story, and then I'll get a little more into that.
Okay.
He looked at us for about 10, 15, 20 seconds, I don't know how long. And he's laying down now on the tundra. We're trading the binoculars back and forth. I'm wanting to see him again, because I'm looking at the most incredible thing I've ever seen, and I want to see it again, but I can't see it. And so I'm thinking, I want to go up there. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to follow him. I'm sentenced to die. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it doesn't matter to me what happens. And so I go, I'm looking for the color of the shrubbery and the brush and everything like that. And he's looking at it. He saw him stick his head up over the salmonberry and blueberry bushes, and all he saw was this much of his head. I think that Bigfoot was just waiting for us to float on down the river so he could continue eating.
So at this point, how far are you at this point?
Oh, he had the best binoculars that you could get. So when we had the binoculars on him, I could see that he had no whites in the eyes. I could see the gorilla wrinkles. 150, 200 yards, I don't know. Okay. But the binoculars brought him in.
Yeah.
I could not see the fingernails.
Okay.
I wasn't close enough to distinguish that, and I couldn't see hair, if he had hair on his knuckles, but the rest of his body had hair. That was totally obvious. He laid there for another 10 minutes, and I'm thinking, I have to see him again. I have to see him. I want to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And because I used to milk cows, and I would sing to the cows, I taught my kids to sing to the cows. I started singing to him because that's what I do. I take my song to the mountains, and if a deer, elk, moose is running, I sing. So I started singing to Bigfoot. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. That might sound a little bit
hokey, but
weird, but I don't care. It happens. It's true.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe he can't hear me. So I got louder and louder and louder. On the second verse, I just spelled it out. You make me happy when skies are gray. And he stood up again and looked at me. I had the binoculars that time too. I saw the gorilla wrinkles, the eyes, the forehead, the wrinkles on his forehead, everything that I just explained. And I was just elated. And he looked at us for quite a little while. I don't know how long. It seemed longer than it probably was. And then he turned and walked away from us at an angle. Now you got to remember, this is a spiritual experience for me too. I was praying to God, have him walk past those two little pine trees that were about 10, 20 feet from him where he laid down, from where he laid down. He did. Walked right past those pine trees. Now I know how tall he is if I can get up there and measure the pine trees. And he went and hid behind some alder trees, a little patch of alder trees, maybe as big as a couple of cars. We couldn't see him at all. We knew he was watching us through the branches, but I keep singing, and my son-in-law, shut up, you're going to scare him. He didn't know why I was singing, but I just went through another song and back to You're My Sunshine, because that's my favorite song. And he eventually walked out from behind that patch of alder trees, and we watched him walk somewhere between 300 and 700 yards up that tundra hillside, not a tree. Watched him walk. He walked slow, but he walked up that hill, I think, faster than I could run down. My son-in-law says, no human can walk that fast. Look at him go with the tundra. You sink 6 to 8 inches on the tundra. And we watched him go up that hill and over the other side, and his head disappeared last. And I'm just, my life was changed, immediately changed. Sure. He turned to me and says, well, what do you want to do now? And I said, take me to shore. I want to see him again. No, he'd rip my arms off. He told me that several times. No, he would rip my arms off. And it made me mad. I wanted to go up and follow him. I wanted to see his tracks. I wanted to see crushed blueberries. I wanted to see him again. I wanted that so bad. He wouldn't take me back, and I says, well, start up the motor. Let's go see if we can see him from some other vantage point on the river. He did. We went up and got the family, and I said, load up. We just saw Bigfoot, and I'm jumping up and down, the boat's rocking back and forth, and my daughter turns to me and, no, you didn't. I kind of made me mad. Sure. I pointed my finger back at my daughter and I said, have I ever lied to you? And she got that puppy dog look on her face. No, but he would. Her husband was a teaser. He teased the kids. And I said, load up. We're going to go see if we can see him again. And nobody moved. My wife said, we've got kids in the water. We're not going.
Oh, man.
My daughter was cooking hot dogs. I was so frustrated, I just started walking up over that hillside, over the, they were at the sandbar. And they're yelling, Dad, don't go. Daryl, don't go. And I walk up over and I walk right into a marsh that is no way I could cross that and get up on that hillside. And so I, frustrated, come back to the, I grabbed the fishing poles and I threw them in, tangled them up. I didn't care. And I'm throwing stuff in, and they won't go. They're they're cooking hot dogs. And I grab a hot dog and I stick it right in the coals. I mean, on top of the coals, the hot coals. And I slapped it on a bun and I says, okay, let's go. And I go load everything else up. They're still cooking. My hot dog was burned on the outside and cold on the inside.
Been there, done that.
Anyway, I finally get him in the boat. We went down, and I asked him to take me to shore. No, Grandpa, you can't get up. It's too thick, the brush along the river and the trees. The tundra hillside was bare, but along the river there was, and then way up on the mountain, there was thick brush, or thick trees, pine trees, and brush down at the bottom. But he wouldn't take me to shore. And I wanted to go so bad, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my wallet and my keys, took off my coat, and I says, I'm going with her without you. My son-in-law says, no, Grandpa, you can't get up there, but I think I know where there's a trail. And he took me down, and we did go up. We did go up, and we found his tracks. We followed his tracks. I don't know. If I put my boot on my shoelace, on the front of my shoelace, those two shoes, that's how long his foot was.
Wow.
And it was about that wide. His toes on the tundra would spread a little bit like this. I've seen other pictures on the dirt where their toes are closer together, but these were spread a little bit. And we only saw that when he stepped on some white, dry lichen on the tundra, and there was just a few little patches of that. Followed him for quite a ways, and the mosquitoes and the gnats were just driving us nuts. Everybody else started to go back. I was not ready to go back. I followed him for a while. I called out to my daughter, come, you've got your camera, come take pictures of these tracks. There was crushed blueberries. She did. And she started back again. And then I said, no, you've got to take pictures of me next to this tree. And so I'm holding my hand up like this. And the top of those trees were 2 feet, less about that much, higher than I could reach. And when he walked past those true trees, he was about 6 inches taller.
So how tall are you?
I can reach almost 8 feet, not quite. And so I'm thinking about 9 to 10 feet, because you sink in the tundra, and it's a little bit unlevel depending on where he walked. And I stopped on his trackway and looked back down at the river. And so my guess is 9 to 10 feet. He thought he was smaller, but no.
Looking at the size of those trees, it's deceptive. When you see a tree, you're looking at, well, that pine tree is only 6 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you get there, it's like, oh my gosh, this pine tree is 9 feet tall or 10 feet tall. And so without something in context, it's very hard from a distance to gauge height.
When we got back to the boat, my wife was there. She didn't go up. But all my grandkids, they went up. Even the little one. I want to see Yeti. I want to see Yeti. So her dad put her on his shoulders, and up they went. That was a steep embankment. We never saw him again. We followed the track for maybe 100, 150 yards, I don't know. And they turned back because of the mosquitoes, and we all got bit.
Sure.
The no-see-em gnats were terrible. The trip down the river was one of the most spiritual experiences of my life. I was thanking God for having had that experience. I thought I was going to die. I will say this. It's been almost 11 years now.
Mm.
I became a vegetarian and started pumping vitamins and minerals. They did scalp me.
Yep.
I scraped myself on a tree or somewhere. That Band-Aid is not due to the cancer. I don't think I have cancer.
Oh, that's amazing.
I used black salve to kill the cancers that the doctors missed. And so I am his miracle.
That's awesome. That's a fantastic story.
He and I became very good buddies, and so that trip down the river was very, very spiritual for me. And I'll only say that much.
I appreciate that.
Very few words were said. When we got down and back to our apartment, their neighbor was working on his boat, and we just saw Bigfoot. We just saw Bigfoot. And no, you didn't. He thought we were lying. And he turned to my son-in-law, who he worked with at the time, and says, is he telling the truth? And my son-in-law, he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to share. I wanted to know more information. I just had to talk to people. I wanted to know about it. And he nodded his head and says, what he's telling you is what we saw. And he says, if you don't believe him, why don't you go interview him? This guy was previous FBI. He was a professional interviewer. I have his interview with me on tape. It's a little bit different than the story that I just shared, because now I have more information. I thought it was a female at the time. I saw hair swaying right here. I think it was too big to be a female. It was just too big. So if it was a female, fine, but I think it was a male now. And in the interview, I said it was a female. Anyway, that's the story. When I got back, we had to come back to Utah 2 days later, and I talked to a couple of natives, and they didn't have a story for me. We was packing, and when we got to the airport at St. Mary's, I just had to get some other opinions and stories. And so I walked into the airport. I've seen a Bigfoot, have you? I got 5 stories in the airport.
And that's what's making you, that's why I mentioned about you being a legend around here, because
I got 2 stories at the Anchorage airport. I went to the archaeology club. We had a summer party. I was a member. And I didn't want it to get out, but at the same time, I had to have more information. I've seen a Bigfoot. How many of you want to hear the story? Half of them raised their hands, and the other half came and sat at my table, and we shared the stories. And then the cat was out of the bag. I was sentenced to die. It didn't matter anyway. I don't care. I still don't care, even though it's been 11 years. So I have interviewed probably thousands of people. I have at least 800 Bigfoot stories recorded, most of them right here in my own hometown, and I'd never heard a story.
yeah,
Until I was, I think, 63 at the time, something like that. Never heard a Bigfoot story. 800 stories?
yeah,
By mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, all things shall be established. 800 stories.
yeah.
And now, 2 years ago, I started, when people would say, when I would say, I've seen a Bigfoot of you, if they started to laugh, I would just change the subject. What's the most incredible thing you've ever seen? And
That's a
I'm
good
getting
question.
1 out of every 4 people I talk to now has seen a UFO.
Yeah, I mean, exactly the same thing.
Here at Phenomecon, it's more than 1 out of every 2. It's probably 1 out of every 1.5.
Yeah.
So it's been an incredible journey. I've learned to love people.
Yeah,
I love interviewing people. I love people. It's just, this is the happiest time of my life. It really is.
I can totally understand that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
God
you
is
for
good.
my. I owe it all to the guy upstairs.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'm kind of on the same quest. I have not seen anything, but my quest is interviewing people. And just like you, it kind of comes out of the woodwork.
Yes, it does.
And once people feel comfortable and safe to tell their story, it opens them up. I was talking to the guys that did the video, the movie, the Flash of
Brett Eichenberger.
Yeah. And they just interviewed a guy
Johnson
who
and Mike
had held something inside for like 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
And when he told his story, it was like a little mouse testing the waters. Yes. Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe?
I spoke at Phenomecon 2 years ago, and Brett Eichenberger was here with his wife, and they heard me speak, and they came up to me after I spoke. And I grilled them because I did not want my story to go to somebody that was a non-believer, namely people in mainstream media that were non-believers, and these medical people with big names that I don't believe. I didn't want to be a part of anything like that because I'm an absolute knower. I don't need any proof. I have all the proof that I would ever need.
Yeah.
800 Bigfoot stories. And when I talked to Brett about the movie that he had already put together, and he said, I need you for the grand finale of A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed. After about a 2-hour grilling of them, and they were talking to me, I realized that I even told them, I think God sent you to Vernal, to Phenomecon, just for me.
Mm.
And the rest is history. It's been an incredible, wonderful journey.
Well, and many more years of it.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience. I hope, well, they say, be careful what you wish for,
yes.
Right? But I hope to have the same experience. I can say I'm a believer, right?
You're a knower.
I'm a knower, but I haven't laid eyes on, right? But I know. I mean, as far as you can know,
enough. You've smelled enough.
Yeah, it's ridiculous to say it's not out there, right? I mean, I will totally acknowledge it's ridiculous to say it's not out there. If even one person of all these people that have a story is telling the truth, it's out there.
Yes.
And it's not just 5 stories. You've got 800, 1,000. I've got 200, 300 at my community. And those are 2 communities.
Yes.
Look at the whole country.
I've got stories all over Colorado from people that I go to Colorado. I'll say one more thing. I also spoke at a small paranormal conference. They talk about gold and Spanish mines too, here in Utah. I spoke there, and they asked me to do a breakout just a month ago, and up at Moon Lake. It's called the Gathering at Moon Lake, and it's the main part of it is held at here in Utah at Altamont City Park. If you type that in, you can. You know, the guys that are putting it together, they're getting old, but they asked me to do a breakout up behind the Moon Lake Lodge, and I did. Beautiful place up there. They were going on a hike to see Spanish writing on trees and some old Spanish mines and stuff like that. And I'm staying back at the lodge with the people that can't do the big long hike. And for 5 hours, there was either somewhere between 20 and 50 people there sharing Bigfoot story after Bigfoot story after Bigfoot story, and UFO stories, and a few very spiritual stories. And it was just, I live for that. I love it. By mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses?
Right.
No, hundreds of witnesses.
It's very hard for me, you know, so many times I wonder, you know, how can people not know, not believe, not believe, I'm using that word. How can people not know? And you know, I think about how many people just live in a city. They never go beyond the grocery store, maybe the golf course. You know, they might go walk in the local park and walk their dogs. They don't look up at the sky. They live this little enclosed world but once you get outside, once you're outside in any way, shape, or form, whether it's hiking, fishing, you know, whatever, and you turn your darn cell phone off and you just enjoy God's creation, you get surprised by so many things. You get the experience of learning and growing, and just how your world opens up. You smell something you've never smelled before. If it's sage or, you know, willows, or, you know, just something that's like, oh, I never knew that this plant, or finding a great current. I went hiking this last time a while back, and my friend showed me Colorado currents.
Oh.
And I didn't know those. And we were having a feast,
yes,
just gorging on these things. I felt like a bear.
One last thing, and then we need to go.
Yeah.
We got...
yeah, I hear them going there.
They're going. I've had so many people here at this Phenomecon conference come up and tell me, thank you, Daryl, for your testimony in A Flash of Beauty, Bigfoot Revealed. It made me cry. That's an incredible movie. Go watch it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Well, there you go. Now you know why Daryl is a bit of a legend around Phenomecon. Not only did he have his incredible story that obviously changed his life, but he's gathered over 800 stories of Bigfoot. If only one of those is true, that breaks the paradigm. There is something wandering around in the woods. And I appreciate what he's doing, gathering stories, and that's what we're doing. Gathering stories from here in Fremont County, Colorado, and points beyond. In fact, I'm going to be going up towards Denver and talking to a gentleman who saw a white Sasquatch years ago while driving up from Texas south of Pueblo, Colorado. He was on Highway 25. He also has a video that I hope to be getting from him, where he was at the Air Force Academy doing some video work of the air show and graduation, and caught on video a UAP while the air demonstration was going on. I hope to be catching that video and showing it to you soon. And also on that same trip, I'm going to be going way up to Northeast Colorado, where only about a week and a half or so ago, a gentleman was turkey hunting along the river and saw a chrome sphere, a metallic ball, flying along. It broke into 2 cubes and took off. I hope to be interviewing him again in a couple of days and going on site and seeing exactly where this happened. I love gathering these stories. If you or anybody you know has had an encounter story, let me know. encounters@modernexplorer.me. I'd love to document your story. And until next time, keep your eyes peeled, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down, they wanna rise up while you drown, they wanna fill your head with doubt, they're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises, and when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.